Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm calling to order this special OMBGA committee meeting of Monday, September 27th to order. For those who are with us, you can watch us via live through our Facebook page, Hartford Public Access TV, channel 93 through Comcast, channel 6032 Frontier. With us this evening, as I see them on the screen, are Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon, Councilman John Gale, our Corporation Council Attorney Howard Rifkin. We have members from the Hartford Public Access TV also on the screen. Also with us is Vinnie Marfella from HPA-TV, am I correct? And we also have Mr. Dave Jurgensen and Jim Dolvesco will be joining us. I see that Councilman Nick LeBron has joined us. Councilwoman Marilyn Rossetti will be joining us shortly as she logs on. And my name is Mally Rosato. I am one of the co-chairs of OMBGA today, and would like to give a shout out to Councilman our majority leader, Councilman Clark, who's also co-chair with me on the OMBGA, and he will not be with us tonight. He's celebrating his son's birthday, so happy birthday. So with that said, the first item on our agenda this evening is item 2.1 on our agenda, which is a resolution authorizing the city of Hartford to enter into a long-term lease for part of the Quirk West building with the Police Athletics and Activities League of Hartford Incorporated, also known as PALS. And with us today, we have Attorney Howard Rifkin, who will now represent the administration on this resolution. And for the record, Councilwoman Wildelise Bermudez has also joined us. Mr. Rifkin?
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to call on my colleague, Attorney James Delvisco from my office, who has been working on the lease agreement, and the folks representing PAL can also join in the discussion. Jim?
Hello, thanks, Howard. I've been working on this agreement between the city and PAL. It's very, very comprehensive. Fortunately, I have with me Officer Vincent Marfella. He represents PAL, and he can answer a lot of the questions concerning what's going on over there. And I'm sure he'll be very helpful in doing that. And I'll do my best to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you.
Jim, why don't you just highlight what this lease is intended to do and why we're looking to enter into a long-term lease with PAL?
Well, as I understand it, PAL has set up an area there where there's a program for kids, for Hartford residents, Hartford kids, and it's occupying a significant amount of space there, and they're already there, as I understand it, and the operation has been going on, and so it's necessary to have a lease in place so the parties can know what their rights are and obligations and so on and so forth. I think that's the basics of it, Howard.
So let me just add to that PAL the program has been in Quirk Middle School for a number of years, and it's really been, we haven't had a formal lease agreement. This is the intent to create a long-term lease with a number of renewal periods. It's $1 a year for the program. One of the reasons to have a lease at this point is there is state money through CRDA. I think it's 7.2 million or something like that has been allocated to do restoration work in that part of the old Quirk Middle School that is occupied by PAL. And it's also my understanding that most of that work is actually completed. I think there are punch list items that need to be gone through. So it's, I think, imperative and necessary that we get the authorization to actually sign the lease agreement so that we can move forward. It's my understanding that a question has been raised about what is the status of the pool in the building. The money from the state to rehabilitate the space that is occupied by PAL did not include money to do anything with the pool, which I understand is in serious disrepair. So it's sort of more or less cordoned off at this point. If there were, and then of course on the other side of the building is global communications. But I think PAL occupies almost 3/4, maybe a little less, of the space that was Quirk. So if there were some desire or opportunity to do something with the pool and make it available for recreation purposes, we'd have to find some other source of funds. And I don't know if Vinny, you or Dave have anything you might want to add.
Sure. Thank you. I can shed some light as to the origins of the project, I think, which would be helpful as well, and kind of makes the case for the long-term lease that we're looking for. So, PAL was originally started back in 1957 in Hartford, and our mission is to obviously provide kids with after-school programming, sports, music, arts, and culture. It's not just athletics anymore. And so, the thing that differentiates us from other, great programs out there like the Y and Boys and Girls Club and many others is that relationship with law enforcement. And, I think everyone can agree that the relationship between the community and law enforcement is of the utmost importance, especially, during these days. We need to make sure that we have a close relationship. And so PAL really gets right to the heart of that, and working with the kids and their families and giving them safe spaces to play and recreate and learn and grow, while at the same time establishing that trust and that rapport that is like I just mentioned, so critical. And so the way this happened was, PAL was pretty much funded entirely through the police department's budget some 10, 15 years ago. And the chief at that point, Chief Ravella, seeing PAL playing such an important role in the city and for the police department and for the kids and the community, he went out and sought a few of us to help basically build a 501c3 from scratch to basically handle the business of PAL, because he knew that his resources and allocations to PAL were going to get cut significantly. We all know the budgetary issues that we've been facing as a city for many years. So we went out and we created this 501c3, and we raised money and hired program directors and coaches and mentors. A lot of the folks we hire are kids and young adults from the city who come back during the summers from college, or just want to work with their community and help the young kids make good decisions and do the right thing. So we're very much a sort of a circular organization that really focuses on Hartford kids who either live or go to school in Hartford. So fast forward to where we are today. Basically what happened was, the Hartford Police Department also, I think it's important to note that the Hartford Police Academy occupies the other third of this Quirk West building. And so this was a project that was on the city's capital improvement plan for some years. And again, due to those budgetary constraints, just kept getting, chopped from that budget. So about, I would say 4 or 5 years ago, myself and a few other board members went to our state delegation and to Governor Malloy's office and asked if there was any way that we could possibly get some state funding to get this renovation off the ground. Because if anyone has been into Quirk West recently, well, not recently, now that the building's fixed and nice, everything works. But, a year or two ago, it was either 1,000 degrees or 2 degrees. The HVAC systems were shot, and it just really wasn't conducive, nor was it really a sort of a bright and sort of, inspiring place for the youth that were in there. It was very institutional looking, very dark, not a lot of light, just really needed a real makeover. So we went to the delegation and to the governor's office, and fortunately they were able to find some money for us from the state bonding commission. And then they decided that the best vehicle to apply that funding and to manage the construction project would be the CRDA. There's also $2.5 million worth of security fellows funding that they were looking for a project that could possibly work with that. And basically what that means is that because we contribute to, safety and security in the neighborhood, and also to, sort of youth services, we were actually able to allocate $500,000 of the 7.5 that we got from the state to the Blue Hills Civic Association fellowship program. And so we had about 10 kids and young adults from the neighborhood, from Blue Hills, from the city, that were able to basically serve as apprentices and be paid and get their certifications as well to work in the trades alongside the contractors in the building. So, this project has meant a lot to a lot of people. Obviously the families and the kids in Hartford and our police officers who are out there trying to protect us every day. But it's also been helpful to teaching folks from the neighborhood real life skills that they can use to go out and become employed. And so we're very proud of that. And I think so what's basically happened, the reason we're looking to formalize the lease at this point is, number one, the 501c3 is a relatively new development. And so it's appropriate for us to have a formal relationship with the city and also there's an MOU with Hartford Public Schools for their use of these facilities. But also, this has sort of evolved into the situation we're in today. So that's why there was not a lease already in place. And then on top of that, you add the 7.5 million that we were able to go out and raise from the state to do the project. And that's why we're asking for, some of the terms we're asking for. Obviously, it's a big project. A lot of money went into it. And, we hope to be there for years to come to serve our mission and enjoy the space that we helped recreate.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from my council colleagues? And welcome Councilwoman Rossetti and our town clerk, Mr. Noel McGregor, to the meeting. Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Dave, what is your operational budget for the PAL program?
So there's sort of two budgets. One is sort of our cash operating budget, which is in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $400,000 a year. But then obviously there's some consideration that we received sort of donations in kind, which we would not be able to run the program without. One being the use of this building, obviously. The other being the officers' time that the police department covers. So they used to fund 5 full-time officers for us. We now have 1, and that's Vinny, and a Sergeant Nikki, who oversees this program and the Explorers program. So basically, when you factor in what the city has basically, the use of the city's building and facilities, as well as the officers' time. We also have a boxing gym over at 1055 Broad Street, which is given to us free of charge by the Raftery Corporation, a business that's been there for 100 years over on Broad Street. So when you factor in all of those facilities and the use that we get from them and what we would be paying in rent and carrying costs for all of those spaces, our budget would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.5 to $3 million a year.
Wow.
There's a lot. And, listen, we've got, about 100 kids every day in our after school program when we're up and running. And then, probably another couple hundred kids through the various athletic programs that we run around the city. We also have satellite programs at Noah Webster School and other schools in the past and for summer programs. So, all in all, we estimate that we interact with, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 kids a year. But a couple hundred on a daily basis. And this new facility now would bring on so much more space in that building that was unusable before, that we hope that we could probably serve another 100 kids a day. But then of course we have to be able to staff it up at the appropriate staffing levels and all that.
Right. I remember Dave took a tour from the old building back in the days years ago, and there was like a construction area you could do mechanicals, not mechanical stuff, but building stuff. Is that still there?
So that's actually turned into one of our favorite parts of the building. We were able to clean out there. So there was a lot of like lead paint and old exhaust systems and machinery that had to get pulled out just because of its contaminated state. And so what we were able to do is actually clean those two huge rooms down there that you're referencing. And now, and so now it's going to be amazing. So now one half of that is a new boxing gym, which we hope will serve more kids from the north side of Hartford, because our other boxing gym is in the south side of Hartford, right? And a lot of our kids walk or, take public transportation. So we have to be close to them. And then the other half of that room, we're covering with turf, with AstroTurf or field turf. And we're going to have, they'll be able to play games indoors. We'll be able to have a batting cage up and running, which we plan to allow, anyone to use, obviously on a reservation basis. But, if the high schools want to use it, if the, the various little leagues, Mayor Mike's wants to use it, whatever, we plan on sharing these assets with the community as well.
Oh, so you guys did a lot with that $7 million. That's great. I remember that area back in the days. A couple of the questions, if you don't mind, Dave. You said the police academy occupies about 1/3 of the building. How long have they been in the building?
So my understanding is they've been in there as long as PAL has been in there, but I'd probably defer that question over to Vinny.
Building was opened up in 2013 for when PAL began, and they needed a spot for the police academy, so they moved the police academy to that location.
Oh, so it's been there since 2013? Is that where you do all your training?
Correct.
For the new police officers?
Correct. Well, new and current. And with the whole $7.5 million that Dave's talking about, the whole police academy side got renovated. So now you're looking at, more classroom space. We could outfit more officers to go to training, so we don't have to rent out spaces. Lately, we've been using like Parker Memorial and other spaces like the convention center. But once it's fully opened up and we have our AV equipment and everything in there, we outfitted 3 classrooms. One's going to be a computer lab because there's a lot of state and online classes that we have to take. One's going to be designated just for the new recruits, and the other room's going to be designated for any in-service training, which is going to be in person with an instructor. Each room could fit about 50 people at this point.
So is that the basement area where they cleaned out?
That's the main courtyard area. So if you're coming in from the courtyard, going on top, that's that whole area on top. They also have the basement area, which had some rooms where they had simulator rooms and some storage areas that are going to get fixed. The city's agreed to fix it up, I guess, or just put, other defensive tactics there. And then they have the gym upstairs on the second floor.
Madam Chair, can I ask a couple more questions?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. One of the issues I have, which I've heard from the community, is that Court Middle School basically does not have an actual indoor gym area for the wintertime. And as you know, we live in New England, so pretty much, everything comes inside pretty soon for exercising. So can Global also use any part of that 66.6% area?
We are entering an agreement. Probably Attorney Del Vesco could speak upon that, but we've written up a MOU so that Global could utilize the space upstairs, the gymnasium, and possibly the auditorium if it's not in use by the academy or us.
This is Jim Del Visco again. That's correct. There's an MOU that's included between PAL and the Board of Education, and Global staff and students will have access to the gymnasium under that MOU for physical education classes, and they'll also have access to the restrooms that are near the gymnasium.
Okay, so the Global Academy is pretty much okay as far as the shared space.
As far as I understand, yes.
Okay.
Dave,
Just so clarification. So it's not just PAL you are actually renting to, because if the police academy is part of this, is that a separate agreement with the police department that's separate from PAL? Because I'm hearing two different organizations in the same space.
I think I can answer that question. There is, as I understand it, and someone here can correct me, there's no agreement between the city and the police. The police have a right to be in there as a department of the city. There is one lease agreement with PAL. There's a memorandum of understanding between PAL and the Board of Education concerning the uses that I just outlined.
Okay, so shouldn't there be an agreement with the police department, even though it's a department and the building still belongs to the city? 5 years or 20 years ago when we're all gone, they could say, hey, we don't want the police academy here anymore. Is there anything in agreement that makes sure that they're there?
Yeah, I don't think that was ever contemplated or frankly necessary. It's an allocation of space, of city-owned space. So just like Jennings Road is an allocation of space for DPW, or public safety complex is an allocation of space for police and fire departments, it wouldn't be any different, I don't believe. I do not think that we need to have a legal agreement with ourselves.
Okay, well, that's why we pay you the big bucks, Howard.
Yeah, right.
So I know the police academy was there, but I did not realize they've taken up so much of that location on the west side of the building. So thank you very much for that clarification. And I'm pretty much happy that there will be an agreement that Global Academy, the kids there, can have an indoor space for their recreation during the fall, winter months. And thank you, Mr. Jurgensen, for all your hard work in renovating the space, and for your foresight to go and lobby for the funds to help out the city. At the same time, I believe it also is being able to help these students at Global for indoor recreational space. Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me ask my questions.
Absolutely, Councilwoman Surgeon. Councilman Gale, followed by Councilwoman Wildelise, followed by Councilman Lick LeBron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions following up on the use of the whole complex. I am trying to visualize. My kids went to Quirk, and I can remember Blue House and Orange House, but I can't figure out what was when we're talking about the west side of the building and the east side of the building. Is the PAL and the police academy, are you occupying roughly half of the building, the entire complex, or is it, how does it break down?
I believe that it's about 66%.
So
building. I'm sorry.
I can
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I can clarify. So basically, PAL is occupying 2/3 of the building. The police academy is occupying 1/3. So if you're looking at the building from the courtyard in between Global and PAL, the left third of the building is those 3 floors. On the left third are the police academy. You have a gym on the top. You have all of their classrooms that Vinny described and offices in the middle. And then you have the basement area that has some of the tactical training rooms. The middle third of that building is basically the foyer. And then it's just the auditorium over the pool. So the whole middle third of that building is basically auditorium and pool on top of each other. The right third of the building is the space that PAL occupies, which is, again, similar to the police academy, but we've got a gym on top, our classrooms and meeting space, an educational space in the middle floor, and then those 2 basement rooms that we talked about earlier that we're going to put in turf, and there's the boxing gym as well. So that's kind of how it chops up.
But what the space that Global has, and I also want to ask who else is there besides Global, but let's just call it the space that you don't occupy, that you and the police academy don't occupy. Is that space roughly the same size as the space you do occupy?
No, there's no space that either of us don't occupy. The only space that Global occupies is the gym during school hours before 3:30, because then our programming starts at 4, and that's when we sort of take over and need use of that gym. So Global, and by the way, this has been going on for years where we've had Global in there using that gym for their phys ed.
Yeah, no, I apologize. I'm not being clear. Global occupies space on that property, and I'm just trying to understand how much space Global occupies on the whole Quirk campus, the old Quirk campus.
Dave, I could probably.
Global is only in the other building that was already redone. So all of their classrooms are over on that side, and they share that with the adult education program as well. So that all of Global is basically across the courtyard from us.
I get that. I'm just trying to figure out how much, do they have roughly the same amount of space as you guys, or half the space you guys have, or twice the space? I'm just trying to get a rough idea there.
So I looked at the mapping on the tax assessor site, and it's the same size building. So Global's occupying the same size building that we are occupying currently.
Okay, thank you. And is it, and Dave kind of referenced this a second ago. I was going to ask who else is in that side besides Global. I think he referenced adult education is also there now. Are there anybody else there? Or is it just Global? And because I think Achievement First was in there at some point too.
So it's Global from K through 8. Adult education picked up a second floor, and now you have a pre-K that picked up the first floor where Achievement First used to be.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. And I know you went through the budget. You talked about the number of kids per day. I'm just wondering, what is the staffing levels for the PAL program? How many full-time staff do we have? How many part-time staff? Not including the in-kind, the paid staff.
Do you want me to take care of that, Dave?
So well, I can speak from the 501c side. We have an executive director, which is currently a vacant position, but we had somebody who just retired, and we're searching for a new one as we speak. We have the job posted. We have a program director who basically manages the sports programs. And then that's the 2 full-time staff that PAL as a 501c has. We also have many part-time staff, hourly staff who are the coaches, the mentors, the counselors, so to speak. And a lot of them are, college age or high school age or in grad school for education as well. So we have partnerships with a bunch of the universities around who like to have their kids come and work in our program. So, if you take the 2 full-time staff and then probably 30 part-time staff, when we're obviously up and running, like right now, obviously we're not up and running. The boxing program is running right now, but others, until we get this building reopened, we can't have the after-school program until we have our full CO.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you very much. Those are the only questions I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So before I pass it to Councilwoman Wildalise Bermudez, I just have a quick question, Dave. So it says here for our viewers that PAL provides free recreational and educational programs and mentoring to Hartford children. PAL volunteers include police officers who work with children to promote positive relationships and impart values and life skills. So just want to reiterate, this program is strictly only for Hartford children?
Yes, they have to either live or go to school in Hartford. As you know, with the magnet schools, sometimes we have a few kids who maybe go to school in Hartford, but live in East Hartford or, Windsor or something. But yes, it's the mandate is they either live or go to school in Hartford.
And what percentage are Hartford kids that live in Hartford that attend PALS right now?
I'll turn this part over to Vinny because he manages our data when it comes to that.
Okay.
Our Hartford residents, according to the program we're running now, it's about 98%.
Okay.
We have one or two coming from East Hartford because they don't have programs out there. But again, it's like Dave said, they're going to school, either a global communications or a local school near us.
Okay. And PALS is open to the children from what time to what time?
We begin at 3:45 as soon as they finish school, and we usually run to about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then depending on funding, or if we could get more funding, we usually try running a Friday night type of program where we'd run till like 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Okay, so the children that come from East Hartford and are done with PALS at 7:30, is there transportation provided to them or not?
The parents pick them up.
Okay, thank you. Thank
No,
you.
I was just gonna say a lot of the kids that come to the program do get picked up by a parent or a guardian.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Bermudez, you have the floor.
Thanks so much. I had a couple of questions. What's the salary for the executive director, the salary for the program director, and the salary for the hourly staff?
I don't have those numbers right in front of me, but I'm happy to provide them. Can I give you, is there some context in which you're asking that question so I know maybe how to answer it better?
Just in that context, in the context of knowing what the salary is based on your operating budget being between 300,000 to 400,000 yearly.
Yeah, I mean, I think our ED is somewhere around 100,000 and our program directors around 35, 40. And then hourly rate, we have minimum wage is $15 an hour. And so we're probably, for the hourly staff, and Vinny, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're anywhere between like 15 and 25 an hour.
Correct.
And of the part-time staffers that you have at the hourly rate, how many are Hartford residents?
That I don't know. Vinny, I'd have to defer to you, and we might have to go back and get that information for you because we don't have our employees, personnel files in front of us.
Well, I'll answer this. Due to COVID and not running program, we lost a lot of staff. Right now we have 2 part-timers on the books, and both of them are from Hartford.
Does the executive director have to be a retired police officer, or are you looking for others?
Our most recent executive director was not a retired police officer. He was retired from the city where he worked for probably 20, 30 years.
Given that you have a lower amount, you said you only had 2 part-time staff because of COVID, how many children were you able to have during COVID for the program?
During summer, we ran about 50 kids. We hired temporary staff for the summer program. And we're looking at about 12 staff.
Yeah, mind you, also during COVID, we it's been difficult to run program, but also our building has been shut down for the renovation for the last year and a half. So we haven't been running programming out of the Quirk for that time. So the boxing program has been running out of Broad Street which has one part-time staff member who runs that gym, who's the head coach over there, and probably about 20 kids who work out and fight out of that gym. But other than that, with Quirk shut down, we haven't really had a base of operations to have programming. But it's probably worked out for the better anyway, because during COVID, it would have been really difficult to have in-person programming that's not outside.
And the last question, will the executive director post the hiring be posted, circulated in the community, or what platforms will you use to get the word out about that position?
Vinny, why don't you, I don't know which platform, it's on pretty much all of the platforms, Indeed and all those, but I don't know where else we've posted it. So Vinny, why don't you take that?
It was circulated through Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and all online based hiring programs.
And it's still an open position right now, is what you said.
Right now, HR is looking at candidates and she is making phone calls.
So HR within the police department, or your own
Nope.
separate
We have
HR?
We have a consultant who volunteers her time, who is a HR rep for another company. So she knows all the steps and she is looking at the candidates right now as we speak.
And then we'll conduct interviews with a few of the board members, and there will be we could run through a whole process that she has set up for us as an HR professional.
Those are all the questions I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bermudez. Before I pass it over to Councilman LeBron, Dave, what is your position with PALS again?
I'm the chairman of the board.
Okay.
I'm a volunteer.
Okay, great. Councilman Nick LeBron, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So first, I'd like to thank PAL for all of the work that they've done over the years. I've seen it firsthand. I myself have partnered with PAL. Vinny, it's good to see you today, Dave. Good to see you as well, for all the work that you do. I'm glad that we're doing an MOU for the school. And I know, Dave, we've talked about this before. I think my concern is, and this may be a legal one, in terms of the allocation of space. So I agree with PAL, it being its own, but there was the statement that said if the police academy needs the gym. So I realize we don't need an MOU maybe because it's city-owned property, but the children are also part of a school system that's city. So there's a conflict there where it's city-owned property that is for both police and for children. So how would that conflict be worked out? Let's say, for example, there was a recruiting class in the middle of winter that needed that gym space. Who and how would that be worked out if there isn't an MOU? I'm not sure if that's a legal question, not sure if that's a PAL question, but I think it's a question we need to unpack so that way we don't move forward with something and there would continue to be a conflict, particularly during the school year and during those school hours in the dead of winter, where the police academy would need the space. So I'm just throwing it out there to anyone who can answer.
I'll just answer that real quick, Nick. So the police academy has their own gym. This Global Communications has the MOU with the PAL side gym, if you're familiar with that upper space. So it's going to be rare that the police academy is going to need that space. If there is a need, has in the past, we will work it out. But, for the most part, Global Communications will have their access to the PAL side gym.
Yeah, thank you for that, Vinny. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do know the two different gyms. I'm just, if there is any kind of, it sounds like we're not foreshadowing any kind of logistical kind of, booking of spaces, but I think from the school-based side, those, if there is anyone, if there is a prioritization, and let's say, for example, there was only one gym available,
I think from the police academy side, utilizing the gym, they can be more flexible than can the school system in terms of their flexibility. And there is a state mandated requirement that kids are supposed to have a certain amount of recreation or physical activity on a daily and weekly basis. And so if there, Vinny, if you have any impact or influence with the logistics, I would just highly recommend if there's a conflict during the daytime that the prioritization go to the kids at the school.
No, I agree. I agree 100%, Nick. And the best thing with this whole renovation is we have that extra space in the basement now, where they had their simulator that's going to be used has a training area also. So I don't foresee any, problems with, Global using our gym. But again, I've been on top of it since I've been there. So we've never denied Global access for that gym if they were during school hours.
Oh, so Vinny, following up on that question, how long have you been there?
I've been there since December of 2017.
Okay, great. Yeah, there was, when I was just as a FYI, there was previous to you, there was that issue. And I think what happens is oftentimes narratives lead the way, right? And so we have the opportunity kind of, like they just continue to be out there and they get recycled. And so I'm glad that you're been on top of it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, we'll be on top of it.
Are there any other questions? Councilwoman Surgeon?
Madam Chair, won't be that long. If I can ask Mr. Jorgensen, since he's really, 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 really good at lobbying, Mr. Jorgensen, would you mind taking under, your wings again, looking for additional funds for the pool, which is really needed. I think if I look in North Hartford away from Parker Memorial, that is the only, indoor pool. So if I can ask a huge humongous favor as a Hartford resident to put one more things on your plate to do, Mr. Jorgensen, is looking for funds so we can renovate that pool. I think it'll be both beneficial for the PAL program, Global Academy, and for the Police Academy. I think that'd be a great asset to that building. Also,
well, it would be our pleasure, Councilwoman Surgeon. In fact, I had somebody prior to COVID who was interested in covering the renovation cost. And so we'll definitely go back at that one again. That is certainly a priority of ours. We would have loved to have been able to do it, through with this round of funding, but know that is an absolute priority of ours to get that over the goal line as well.
Oh, that would be totally awesome. And just one small question, Madam Chair, and I promise you, because I know we have to get to our council meeting. And one of the conditions in the resolution spoke to the terms of being able to renting out the location to other providers with the approval of the city. And how does that work? So I know there's a great auditorium there. If a community group would like to use the auditorium, how would they go about doing that? Would they petition the PAL program, the police academy? Who would be in charge if a third party would like to use some parts of the building?
Yeah, so they would just reach out to PAL, and we would, assuming we're not using the space or the academy is not using it for educational purposes, we're more than happy to share that space with the community. That was part of our intention. There may be expenses associated with that. Anybody who's used space like at any of the schools knows that you have to pay for a custodian to be there, or security to lock up the building afterwards. So there could be some costs associated with it, but it's not something that we're looking to make a profit center or anything. In fact, we'd love to have more and more people in that building to see, the great work that we're doing. So certainly available for community use, and already is used by the community a little bit. We've had a couple public safety sessions for like parents. I remember one a few years ago where we did like an internet safety, social media safety seminar for parents and kids. So we're already doing some of that, but certainly would welcome more of it.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Councilwoman Surgeon. Are there any other questions from my council colleagues? There being none, the chair will entertain a motion now. Councilman Gale,
Yeah, I move that we send this back to council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
a motion has been made by Councilman Gale and properly seconded by Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Great, there being none, this item will be referred back to council with a favorable recommendation. Thank you, Dave and Vinny and Mr. Levisco for being here with us. You're more than welcome to stay on, but if you need to leave, you may do so. Next item on the agenda is item 2.2, the Standing Building Committee. And that is an ordinance amending Chapter 28, Article 4 of the Municipal Code of Hartford to align Standing Building Committee for school building projects with the State Law Special Act 01-7. And from the administration to speak on behalf of this ordinance